Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. In today's show, we're going to talk about some of the comments I received from you guys with relation to the previous podcast I did, where I was talking about that the gentleman from Canada who tried CE-5 several years ago, and he was trying to hoping it would cure his deafness. Unfortunately, ever since now, he's been getting early morning hour visitation by apparent non-human intelligent beings, 3 or 4 times a week for the last 5 years, because he was hoping that he would use CE-5 meditation in an effort to cure his deafness, because he saw that somebody on a documentary from 2020, a documentary called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. In that documentary, which featured Dr. Stephen Greer, a person who was suffering from deafness, who had to wear hearing aids, his hearing problems went away after CE-5 meditations, and that's what was reported in that documentary. Unfortunately for the person from Canada, when he tried it, that's not what he got. He didn't get a cure for his deafness. Instead, he's getting like 3 o'clock, usually around 3 a.m. visitations 3 or 4 times a week ever since, and it's terrifying kinds of incidents in his mind, and he's trying to find out ways to make it stop. But anyway, I did receive a lot of different comments, and we're going to talk about some of those comments. I received it on my Spotify channel as well as on YouTube, and we'll go over that later on. First, I want to talk about a story that I thought was really interesting, and this appeared in the UAP Register. It's a Substack page from UFO investigator Dustin Slaughter, and this past week he did this article about this FAA report documenting this incident from 2023 in Florida, where several military personnel witnessed a giant cigar-shaped UFO, and I want to get into that first. Anyway, here's what and actually I'll leave the link for this, so make sure you check out Dustin Slaughter's Substack page. This guy, he's always coming up with some good articles with regard to this phenomenon. And anyway, the headline reads, "Large cigar-shaped object observed by military eyewitnesses in Florida per newly released report. Witnesses excitedly describe the incident, which remains under investigation, in a series of text messages included in the report." And it says here, a new Federal Aviation Administration report obtained by the UAP Register details a highly unusual sighting of an unidentified object by several military witnesses in 2023. At approximately 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time on September 15th, 2023, 4 service members assigned to the Avon Park Air Force Range, or APAFR, in Central Florida, were transporting small unmanned aerial vehicles in 2 trucks through a restricted range designated as R2901. And then he has a map here that shows where this location is at in Florida, right there, pretty much in the center. Anyway, continuing here, it says a range officer at the base received a text message at 9:38 a.m. from a subordinate stating, "I saw a UAP on base this morning when we were going out in the field!" Exclamation point. 3 witnesses in 2 different trucks! Exclamation point. And it disappeared right in front of our eyes! 4 exclamation points. I just want to stop there for a second. I thought that comment was really interesting. I mean, obviously, what they're saying here doesn't seem like it could have been man-made. I mean, these military witnesses, they know what we have. They're used to seeing things that we have, right? And then they see something like this apparently large UAP, this large cigar-shaped object, just up there in the sky. I mean, this is how they react, because it's something that they know it's not normal, obviously. Anyway, continuing here, it says the officer notified the military desk at the FAA Miami Air Route Traffic Control Center of the sighting, and then sought additional information from one of the witnesses as follows. According to one of the drivers, the incident started when there was a bright reflection in the sky that caught my attention. My passengers saw it too. The witnesses spotted what was described as a metallic object approximately 500 feet in the air, and the, quote, sun was reflecting brightly on its left side, end quote. The UAP was further described as, quote, cylinder in shape like a cigar, end quote. The object was estimated to be approximately the length of, quote, 3 traffic helicopters combined, end quote. So there you go. Obviously, this isn't normal. 3 traffic helicopters combined, that's how big it was? That's pretty big. This information was relayed to their superior, an Avon range officer, in a series of text messages, who later sent the rest of the report to the Miami ARTCC. The Miami ARTCC then notified the FAA's Joint Air Traffic Operations Command, or JTOC, J-A-T-O-C. Then it has like a segment of the report here as well you could read through. But anyway, continuing with the article, it says, the report also noted that no traffic was scheduled to enter, had permission to enter, nor was tracked entering the restricted range. It concluded that small UAV/drones are scheduled to operate today. The members that saw the UAP were the drone operators with the drones secured within the vehicles. So these people know. They know what, if they're seeing something that's unusual and something that's not unusual. They know the difference between those kinds of things. Anyway, continuing, it says a spokesman for the Pentagon's UAP Investigation Office, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, confirmed to the Register that this incident remains under investigation. The report, released by the FAA through the Freedom of Information Act, highlights a persistent problem that the United States military has encountered for many years: unauthorized incursions of restricted airspace by unidentified phenomena. Yeah, let me just stop there. You know what's going on here, folks. The unidentified phenomena in a lot of these cases, I would have to imagine it's non-human intelligent. That's what's going on here. They just don't want to tell you that. They just want to continue to lie about it. They can't tell you that. The United States, the Pentagon, the secret control group, right? All of these people, right? All the people that are containing this secret, they don't have the balls, right? They don't have the balls to tell the truth to the American people about what's going on with these, whatever they are, non-human intelligent beings. I think they're extraterrestrials. They don't want to tell you. They're too afraid of how you're going to react. For so many different reasons, on so many different levels. The reaction, right, once it's told, right, once some official finally steps up to a podium and lays out the truth to the world, there's going to be lots of questions, lots of anger. People are going to be wondering, why did you lie to us for 80 years? That's what's going on here, folks. Just want to throw that out there. Okay, and then there is a portion of that preliminary report embedded in the article here that you could check out. But then later on, the article picks up. It says, similarly shaped unidentified objects have been reported by service members for many decades. Marek von Rennenkampf, a former State Department official, Department of Defense appointee during the Obama administration, and UAP researcher, told the Register. And here's what he said. He said, reports of cylindrical, cigar-shaped objects, as the witness describes here, date back to at least 1948, when this morphology was explicitly described in one of the United States government's earliest surviving assessments of UFOs. That assessment, Air Intelligence Report number 100-20379, Analysis of Flying Object Incidents in the United States, was produced in December of 1948. And yes, he's a portion of that report here from 1948, and they were seeing them back in 1948. So let's just stop there for a second. As you can see in this old report from 1948, before we stop there, I just want to go through this. It says, among the incidents reported, there are many statements by reliable and experienced persons which tend to confirm that flying objects have been seen. The description of such objects seems to fall roughly into three categories. 1, silver discs or balls approximating a Horton wing type aircraft. 2, balls of fire of various colors and intensities. And 3, cigar or pencil-shaped objects, similar in appearance to V-2 type rockets in horizontal flight. So yes, they were talking about cigar-shaped objects way back in 1948. When the military was talking about them, that's what they were seeing back then. So you have to think they're still seeing them today. So if somebody tries to tell you, when anybody tries to tell you, right? Oh yeah, that's our craft. Oh, that's our secret high tech. That's our secret tech out there in operation. No, it's not. No, it's not. There wasn't in 1948, and it isn't now. See, this is why I don't believe that. Like when you hear Ross Coulthart's recent assertion that he's heard through some grapevine of which he will not share, that the Tic Tac UFO that was seen by David Fravor and others back in 2004 was actually something developed by Lockheed Martin. I don't believe that story one bit, and I don't know how Ross Coulthart seems to fall for it too. I don't care who told him it. I really don't. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it, because those same kinds of objects were being seen back in all the way back in the 1940s. Those same kinds of objects were being reported. So you're going to tell me that we had that back then? No, there's absolutely no way we had them back then. I mean, we were just developing jet aircraft at that time, and we really didn't start using them until the 50s. So come on, there's no way. Anyway, continuing with the article here, it says the Air Intelligence Report also noted that objects witnessed by service members displayed performance characteristics allegedly beyond the capabilities of the United States military's arsenal, and speculated that the technology might be operated by foreign adversaries. Yeah, now I could imagine back in the day, right, when, back in the 1940s, what are they else they're going to say? Oh yeah, maybe it was foreign adversaries. But right, now after all of these decades, we all know that there's no way that foreign adversaries were operating that kind of craft, cigar-shaped craft with no visible means of propulsion back in 1948. There's absolutely no way. It's absolutely the cover-up has been going on all the way since that, all the way back to, it starts back in 1947. That's what's been going on here. Actually, he has another section from that 1948 report here. It says, conclusion. The conclusion that some type of flying object has been observed over the United States seems to be substantiated. It is not known at this time whether these observations are misidentifications of domestically launched devices, natural phenomena, or foreign unconventional aircraft. It is therefore impossible to make any reliable explanation for their appearance over the United States or the tactics which they may employ if the objects observed include any foreign developments in aeronautical fields. Isn't it funny? Like some of the stuff that they're saying now, they were actually saying way back then too. It's really, really funny. It is likewise impossible at this time to contain discussions of possible performance characteristics or tactics within limits of practical reason, if for no other reason than the fact that proof of the existence of a foreign development of this type would necessarily introduce considerations of new principles and means not yet considered practical possibilities in our own research and development. Yes, they would not have been practical, especially at that time in 1948. But then the article picks back up after that. It says here, modern-day assessments from ODNI and ARROW have not yet directly attributed any anomalous objects to foreign adversarial capabilities, however. Yes, see, even though they keep saying, it might be China and Russia, right? It's still, they haven't said that yet. They haven't said it. These strange objects that military personnel sometimes encounter, they never were able to prove that yet, apparently. It says, here's a direct comment from Rennenkamp. He said, I suspect that the individuals who observed this object disappear in front of their eyes would make for excellent witnesses at an upcoming congressional hearing on UAP. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this recent sighting from just a couple years ago in Florida. The interesting thing is that it disappeared. It just disappeared. The thing was as big as 3 helicopters, large helicopters lined up back to back to back, right? And then it just disappeared right in front of their eyes. Did it become invisible, or did it move away so fast it just looked like it disappeared? I guess, it doesn't really matter. It just goes to show that obviously whatever these guys saw, it could not have been something that's normal. That could not have been something that we've developed. That's the bottom line here. Anyway, the article continues here. It says, Representative Eric Burleson of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform recently claimed that a public hearing on UAP is scheduled for sometime in September, according to Capitol Hill reporter Matt Laszlo. Congressman Eric Burleson's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment on whether his office would seek to have witnesses to the Avon Park Air Force Range incident testify before Congress. Yes, it would be nice to have these witnesses to this event testify before Congress. And then, under oath, okay, yeah, the object was right in front of our eyes, and then it just disappeared into thin air, basically. That's what they would say. Obviously, this is whatever these guys saw. It's not something that was made by us. Obviously, these beings, they're interested in our military installations. They're interested in what we're up to, obviously. They're interested in our nuclear capabilities, obviously. There's a lot of different things that they're interested in, and it seems they're particularly interested in what our militaries of the world are up to, and our nuclear facilities and our nuclear weapons. That seems like they're very interested in those things. And that's why the military doesn't want to talk about it. They don't want to tell you the truth about really what they know. And obviously, some people in the military don't know all the answers either, because they're not read in on these top secret programs. Only certain people in very, very high positions know the truth in the government. And of course, I believe, as a lot of us do, that there is a secret control group that's pulling all the strings and that is responsible for this cover-up. Something that was established probably during I'm certain during the Truman and Eisenhower administrations, and I think it's the secrecy. It's whatever rules were established during that time. In fact, I know I talked about this. There was some information that came out months ago where somebody actually that's basically what's going on. Some insider was saying that yes, they were actually operating under instructions that were created by people who are long dead. Basically, from the military and government officials in the 1950s established certain protocols with regard to that's cover up, and we're still operating under those same regulations apparently. So that's what I think. Anyway, moving on, I want to talk about some of the comments I recently received for the previous episode where I was talking about the guy from Canada who suffers from deafness, who after seeing this documentary, he tried CE-5 because he thought it could cure his deafness like it did for this guy in the documentary he was watching. But unfortunately, now he's getting visited nightly, or not nightly, 3 to 4 times a week, and he wants to get rid of these. He wants these visitations by these NHI to stop. But anyway, I received a lot of comments, so we want to go through some of the comments. I will start with the Spotify comments first. This was from Carrots27. He says, it takes an extremely brave individual to stay with the humming and high-intensity ringing when it happens. Yes. Now, the person we're talking about here, I used the pseudonym Joe, the Canadian gentleman. And what happens at around 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 to 4 times a week, he's laying in bed, and he'll hear this ringing sound, this humming sound, and then he feels like he's starting to become paralyzed, but he won't let it happen. He feels like there's a presence in the room, and on some occasions, these creatures actually are there. He sees them visually there. He tried to kick out one. The first time it happened, he actually tried to kick one, and it disappeared in some sort of a vapor. But he just wants it to end now. But anyway, Carrots goes on to say, it happens to me more often than not, and usually about 3 a.m. So this seems to happen to other people here. And he goes on to say, I always manage to pull myself up and out of the paralysis because the thought of letting the humming and ringing getting so loud, it felt like I will suffer some sort of heart attack with fright. I did manage one night when it happened to stay with it and see. I eventually had to stop it, but wanted to go back in. So that's weird. So this seems like some people are experiencing the same kinds of things. Now, I know there's some people out there are going to say, well, maybe it's just sleep paralysis. Of course, when you have sleep paralysis, when people do have sleep paralysis happen, it seems like there's a presence in the room. When I was a kid, I had sleep paralysis happen several times. I know what that is. I would imagine I was hearing sounds like pounding on the wall. It was a horrifying feeling. Basically, sleep paralysis, it's the opposite of sleepwalking. You're consciously awake, but your body thinks it's still asleep. And it's a scary experience. But this is different. What these people are talking about doesn't sound like sleep paralysis to me. I mean, not when alien creatures actually show up and you're able to kick at them. You're not paralyzed. So that's different. So I remember when I was talking about my experience when I was a kid. I wake up in the middle of the night and there's this humming sound, this overwhelming humming sound. I was not suffering with sleep paralysis. I was completely mobile. I was able to move around. There was something was standing right beside the bed. Some sort of a creature was standing right beside the bed. It only had 3 digits on its hand that came to they're thick at the bottom of the digits and they came to near points at the tips. And it kept on moving its hand over my head like this. I had a blanket over it was a thin blue blanket. This was like in August of that year of 1977. I had this thin blue blanket over my head, and the light was left on in the room. There was a hall light on the top of the steps, and the whole room was illuminated, right? And so I wake up, I'm wondering what's this weird humming sound I'm hearing, right? And it was unbelievable, right? It was very weird, very strange. And meanwhile, I could see that there's something standing by the bed, right? Through the blanket. There was only a thin blue blanket. I could see this weird hand with only 3 digits on it. Then the hand would get closer to my face and then further away, closer to my face and then further away. And, it was just so scary. I mean, but I was mobile. I was moving around. I was yelling for my mom and dad. I was trying to wake my brother up who was sleeping on the other side of the room. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs and nobody's coming to the rescue. My brother Davey would not wake up. It was unbelievable. But and then somehow, I start saying my prayers. There's a lot of comments here. We'll get into some of them where people are saying that they should, maybe the Canadian gentleman should resort to prayers. I obviously he has, because we actually, when me and Scott Roeder were talking to him, Scott Roeder actually said to him, "Are you saying prayers?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, he's tried everything." But some people are saying that's what he needs to do. I said prayers the night when I had my experience back in 1977. What happened eventually? I was saying that's all I could do. I didn't know what else to do. I thought it was a demon from hell in the room. But what happened to me was somehow I got conked out after time. The whole incident lasted 20 minutes, right, for me. And then this thing did not go away, whatever it was. It was short, whatever it was. I thought it was a demon from hell. That's what I thought it was. I had no idea. I had no idea about aliens at that time. In fact, it wasn't until like over 10 years later when I realized that's what it was after watching documentaries about alien abduction. Then I finally realized what it was. But at the time, I was an altar boy. I was going to church all the time, on Saturdays and Sundays. And I thought it was something out of hell. That's what I thought, and I thought that for a long time. But I did say prayers, but the thing didn't go away. What happened was I ended up getting conked out, and that was it. And somehow I woke up the next day. When I woke up the next day, it was gone, and nobody believed the story. That's what happened to me. Anyway, continuing with these comments here. Here's one from Custom 1953. He says, "Have your house blessed. Try and treat it like a poltergeist. Had NHI activity in last home. We thought they were ghosts, but my dogs could see them in the house. It wasn't a haunting. It was pranks getting out of hand. Pissed me off. I have a friend that's into some dark stuff, but is also very religious. He's been performing rituals, ceremonies, etc. since he was a kid. Took him a few hours and most of his energy. He also commented about the 3 shadows that follow me. God took care of those for me." So yes, this guy here says he treated it like a poltergeist situation and had his friend come in and bless the house. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. My suggestion, as everyone, if you saw that show, I was talking about this Velostat helmet, this thought screen helmet that was developed by a gentleman named Michael Mencken, who was a former FAA technical writer, and I talked about his website. I actually had him on the show one time. He has come up with he actually has the instructions on his website on how to make these helmets. If you're someone who's getting visited by aliens on a regular basis or controlled by them, he says these helmets will stop that. Well, that's one of the things that Joe is going to try. Okay, let's see. Jonathan Haynes says here on Spotify, maybe he should have it documented by doing a sleep study at a medical facility. Yeah, that might be an option too. But, I will say this, he said that when he's out of town, he goes out of town for his work sometime, different times of the year. And he says whenever he's out of town, nothing happens. Nothing happens when he's out of town. So I don't know what that means. Okay, let's shoot over to YouTube now. There was a lot of comments on here. Let's see. Here's one from Crybury. Says, this sounds are normal when you are practicing out-of-body techniques. When practicing, you receive visits, some terrifying and others neutral or positive. It is a wonderful, wonderful experience to be visited and discover that the universe is multidimensional and full of intelligent life. The problem is when we fail to overcome the fear of the unknown. I just think human nature, that we all have a fear of the unknown. I mean, if all of a sudden an alien showed up in this room, I'm going to be scared out of my mind too. If all of a sudden something showed up here and I'm paralyzed on top of it, I don't think anybody should like that. I mean, you hear stories from alien abductees sometimes, and they're not pleasant. The stories are not pleasant. So I don't know. So I think it's a mixed bag. For some people, it seems like when they have these encounters, they think it's a good time, and then for others, they're just terrified. So I don't know about it. I'm just not sure. Who knows what they're up to? Is it good? Is it bad? I mean, is it indifferent? Or what is going on here with this in the first place? Okay, Alexandra Smith says, tell him to go in the name of Jesus. Even better, get to know Jesus yourself. Well, I think I know Jesus pretty well. Like I said, I was an altar boy in a Catholic church for 10 years. I know all about Jesus. I know all about him. Okay, here was a comment from Metal Droid. He says, I've had sleep paralysis a few times, waking dreams, and I used to sleepwalk when I was a kid. REM atonia could definitely be responsible for some of the weird experiences people have. But also, some, not all of the things I've had happen like that really stand out and feel different. One sleep paralysis incident in particularly, I 100% believe there was a presence of something else in the room with me. It was a short nap, middle of the day, no tingling or pain like a limb that was asleep, just complete paralysis and a voice talking to me from just out of my frame of view. I think about it all the time. Weird stuff. Yeah, that is a weird story there. Thanks for sharing it. Here's in commenting in replying to that, somebody wrote, this was LV Mark UFO wrote, I had sleep paralysis 2 times, and the first time I thought I was dying or gonna die. I couldn't move, flat on my back, only my eyes could move, and I literally seen and felt the dark presence. It felt like 5 minutes and it was 10 seconds because I remember looking at the time before I laid down. The second time I wasn't as scared because I knew what was happening, but both times was scary, and I saw daily the dark figure above me. And I saw daily the dark figure. I don't know what that means there. And he continues here. He says, also to add on the dark presence I saw and felt was a face, and it was just like a black darkness fog or mist or whatever. But I could only move my eyes, and when I looked straight up to the ceiling behind my head, that's where it was. Well, that's an interesting, that's the thing with sleep paralysis. I haven't had that happen to me since I was a kid, but I know that's scary. Yeah, when the first couple of times that it was happening to me, I thought I was gonna die too. I had no idea what was going on. In fact, I never figured it out. Not until decades later. At some point it just stopped happening. Right? Like I wondered what was going on. I think I might have told my mom about it, and she didn't know what to say. And then eventually it was only for a short period of time when that was going on. And then I never had any explanation for it. It was like decades later probably, but maybe about 15 years later, I think I was reading something about sleep paralysis, and that's what that was. I finally realized what that was. Similarly to how I realized, that's with the alien encounter. That's what it was. It wasn't a devil from hell. After all, it was just an alien, extraterrestrial. Moving on, here's another comment from Ani Jesse. Says, this story is very personal to me. I am also profoundly hard of hearing, and when the CE-5 documentary came out with the man who was deaf claiming he was cured of his hearing loss, certainly intrigued me and my mother, who was also deaf. Some backstory: my family have all been regular abductee victims for several decades. I thought that possibly when the visitors started their next cycle, I would ask when I wake up during the abduction process, as I am far beyond the fear response and just accept the situation as it is happening. So far, I am still wearing hearing aids. They do not care or they do not care or take a request. So this guy tried it too, apparently, and it's not working for him. Juliana on YouTube says, that's absolutely terrifying and also really annoying about them opening old wounds to torment a person in dreams. They're getting personal here. Yes, Joe stated that that one of the things that happens during some of his encounters or experiences with these things is that it seems like they're making him relive events and old events, and they're opening up old wounds. Like sometimes he wakes up angry, like over something that happened years ago, like when one of his friends stole money from him, and he wakes up really angry, and he's remembering the whole thing over again. Seems like they're trying to extract all the memories from his mind, and as they do, he's recalling them. That's what it sounds like to me. Steve D300 says, they say when you lose one of your senses, the others get heightened. That might be what's happening. That's something to think about too. Yes, I mean, just like with blind people, they hear a lot more. Like if you're blind, a person who's completely blind, you could hear a lot better than other people. You could smell a lot better. Like all the other senses become heightened. Maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe that has something to do with why he's sensing them more. Maybe because of this, his senses are heightened because he has severe deafness. Okay, here was one from Tom Higgins 9242. Why did he not reach out to Dr. Greer? And John Hobart responded saying, go ahead and reach out to Dr. Greer and let us know how soon you get a hold of him. And then somebody responded to John Hobart saying, this was the shadow hand, said, I've emailed him and got answers immediately. Maybe you're just making up something about a person you have never met. Laura says, maybe this is not such a good idea to open yourself up to out-of-body experiences. He kind of opened the door, so to speak. Too bad. Well, I know, a lot of people, well, that's the thing. When you hear someone on TV telling you, yeah, to help me out, well, then you're going to, some people try, and then you find out, oh, that doesn't work. You know? Here was a comment from Ill Street Fire. It says, I used to get visits from the same alien being types every night. I'd hear the buzzing sounds followed by electrical voltage shocks straight to my brain. I learned, like Joe, to shake the paralysis before it locked in and break free from the sessions. Hearing how someone else has been through the same experiences further validates my claims. I thought that was a very interesting comment. You know, I remember reading David Jacobs, one of his books. I don't know if it's The Threat or Walking Among Us. I think it was Walking Among Us, where somebody, an abductee, figured out, like, when they're taken into a craft and they're you know, they're having things done to them, you know, they're having medical procedures done to them, or mind scans, right? That's another thing that they talked about in those books. A lot of the abductees, like, an alien, like a mantis, would be staring this woman in the face, and in other times there was nothing she could do. Like, her mind would be getting scanned by these creatures. They get inside your brain. That's how it's described, right? It's very, very people don't like it, right? These abductees, when they talk about this, they don't like this at all. But she figured out a way to stop it from happening, where she just kept on, you know, moving her eyes around, like preventing that. By doing that, by constantly moving her eyes around, it prevented this mind scan procedure from occurring, which I thought was interesting. And maybe this is what's happening here. Maybe this is something similar to in these cases with Joe and here Ill Street Fire. They figured out a way here to prevent some of the activity from moving forward. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe in a way what's happening is a good thing, because he's preventing things. They're preventing something from occurring to them that they don't want to occur. Let's see. Selena Singer says, this guy invited these aliens to his house to help him, and the first thing he did was kick and attack them. Maybe he needs to apologize. Well... okay, I guess that's a legitimate comment, but here's the thing. Okay, it's going to freak anybody out. If all of a sudden you saw one of these creatures up close and personal like that, you're going to freak out. I don't care who you are, right? Even if you're calling them your house. I mean, in the previous podcast, I actually showed a segment from an older podcast from last year where I had a guy on where he was conjuring. He tried to conjure CE-5 while he was laying in bed, and his wife was sitting there beside him reading a book, and a 8 to 10 foot tall alien mantis creature showed up and scared the hell out of his wife, scared the hell out of him. You think it's neat, it sounds neat, it sounds exciting, but then when you really see it, it's like, whoa! I mean, that's the answer here, right? Ellipsia says, Joe, adopt a cat. Okay, maybe a cat will keep them away. And John Hobart says, if this guy is for real, I believe that face you found is a mantis type. I still don't know what the heck that one is in the tree in South Carolina. Okay, yeah, there was videos that Joe sent me, and I said that they're inconclusive. I went through them frame by frame, just like we did with the Vegas stuff, and it's really, you can't really see anything. But there were a couple of instances where there might be a face, and I because it was like only very, very fleeting, I just have to say it's inconclusive. But the one face that I did point out, it did, if it really is represent a creature, well then it did have a mantis type of a face. Okay, Skidora says, I do believe, for whatever the reason, calling out for help from Jesus Christ makes it stop. So some people, again, believe that, if you're calling out to God, then maybe that will make it go away. Or sometimes for some people, it does make it go away. So that's another thing that people could try. Anyway, I want to say thank you for all the comments. It's very much appreciated. I guess I'll wrap it up here. I'll say thank you very much for joining me today. Until next time.